Hello, my name is Moira McPartlin. I'm the Scriever for the Federation of Writers, and today I am bringing you another in the Industry Insider series. I'm delighted to welcome David Simons, or Jai David Simons. David Simons. I think because there's another David Simons author. David is a Scottish novelist and short story writer. He was educated at Hutcheson's Boys Grammar School in Glasgow, graduated with a law degree from Glasgow University. He's been a partner in an Edinburgh law firm, a cotton farmer in a kibbutz in Israel, charity administrator in London, a university lecturer in Japan, and a journalist for multinational publishing house Informa. Apart from fiction writing, David is also the editor with Blue Pencil Literary Agency. He's a media journalist with global technology consultancy firm, Omdia, hope I'm saying that right. And yep. Since October 2017, he has lived as a digital nomad, traveling, writing, and working around the world, which is quite something. And David has 6 published novels, his latest, The Responsibility of Love. And I've asked David along today to talk about publishing beyond the mainstream. And hopefully what he has to say will help you in your own writing business. But first of all, I'm going to ask David, as a digital nomad, where he's talking to us from today.
Well, I'm talking to you from Spain. I've been less nomadic in the last few years because of the pandemic, unfortunately.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Because I was all over the place before that: Japan and Vietnam and Australia, New Zealand, Costa Rica, Samoa,
wow.
States, and so on. And I was headed for Mexico and Havana, Cuba. But then the pandemic hit. So I'm here in Spain, which isn't a terrible thing.
No.
I'm enjoying my life here.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time out to talk to us today, David. It's delightful to see you, because I haven't seen you for a long time.
Yeah, no, we used to see each other a lot.
Yeah, we did in Glasgow. So we're talking about publishing beyond the mainstream. You have been successfully published traditionally. What made you explore other means of publishing?
Well, I think just before I sort of mentioned that, I thought although I've been published traditionally, successfully maybe, that's been through a whole series of small independent publishers.
Yeah.
So I kind of see them as beyond the mainstream. I mean, because the mainstream I think of as the big publishing houses, HarperCollins and Penguin and so on, and even the big independents like Canongate and so on. So I just wanted to say that I think a lot of aspiring writers tend to miss out the small independents when they're thinking about getting published, and there's literally a list of, I've got lists there. I think I sent you over. I don't know, you might want to publish it for your readers.
Yeah, I can.
It's like a list of over 1,000 small independent publishers that can be very niche. And if you have a niche, niche content, or you're writing in a niche genre or everything, you can look to these small independent publishers because they're much easier to get access to than the big ones, and would be more interested in niche content. So I think it's important not to, I mean, if you're like a Black Caribbean writer, there are publishers for that. If you're an Irish writer, there's publishers for that. If you're writing about a particular area or a particular location or something, you might find local publishers who'd be very interested in those. So I think it's important that people don't miss out the small independents when they're thinking about getting published.
Yeah. Any links, any of your references that you make today, I will put in the
cool
comments box of the video.
But I mean, as for myself, I went through, or I've been with I think 5 small independents. I went with Two Ravens Press at the very beginning. That was about 15 years ago. And then they kind of retreated to North Uist, I believe, and are very niche now, I think, as far as I know. And then I went with Five Leaves Publishing, who Ross Bradshaw, who took on, I think he took on too much in the end as far as publishing was concerned, and just got overwhelmed with it and decided against all advice to open up a bookshop, which has been hugely successful, small independent bookshop, and then became the UK's bookshop of the year.
All right. That's in the north of England, isn't it?
Yes, that's in Nottingham.
Nottingham, right.
Centre, yeah. So, and then I went with Saraband, who were just, as you know, too, Moira, I mean, they were just starting out then. I think I was their second title on their fiction list. And Sarah Hunt at Saraband, I mean, they've just gone on from success to success, really, with Graeme McRae Burnett, of course, being shortlisted for Booker, and Donald S. Murray's had a lot of success. I mean, they've had lots of successful novels, and all my books, bar one, are still with Sarah. But she took over the ones that had been with Two Ravens and Five Leaves, and then I went with Freight. Many Scottish writers did, and they went into liquidation. So that is one of the pitfalls of being with a small independent.
Yes.
And then to sort of answer your question about why did I start to examine other means of publishing, was with my latest novel, The Responsibility of Love. Saraband, they weren't keen on it for reasons it's probably better not to go into at the moment. And also the pandemic happened. And what I found with the pandemic was that people have been really holding back. Publishers have been holding back all their books because they can't do festivals and events and so on. And I think with yourself as well, Moira, I mean, those kind of things were really important for me when it came to selling books, was getting myself out there.
Yeah, they are very important. They're important for every author. And I think even all the big publishers are the same. I think they're about 2 or 3 years behind now. And
well, exactly. So there was a huge backlog. And I thought, if I'm going to try and get myself published by another publisher, or even look for an agent, then it's going to take years.
Yes.
It's going to take years. So I thought that the quickest way to market for me would be self-publishing.
Yeah.
And so what happened was that I went quite far down the road of self-publishing, which I'll sort of go into maybe a little bit later. And then I came, one of my publishing friends, whom I wrote to for advice about printing costs and you know, what kind of paper should you have, and typesetting and all this kind of thing. And he came back to me and said, well, we'll publish your book for you. Even though he wasn't really, the Backpage Press is primarily a successful sports publisher. I think they're just shortlisted for Sports Book of the Year, actually. But they were looking to get into some more fiction. And they've always, I mean, Martin Gregg, who's one of the directors there, I've known him through Ouija Wednesday, which
I know Martin as well,
which is really was a hugely valuable source for us, yourself, you know, included, when it came to publishing our books. The contacts that we made, and Martin had always been a big fan of my books. He'd been always very supportive of them, and so he said, "Yeah, we'll publish it for you." So so that became a kind of hybrid publishing model.
Yes.
Whereby I'd already, you know, laid out for lots of the upfront costs, but then Martin took over distribution.
Including printing and distribution.
No, I did the printing. He basically made the book available.
Right.
And that to me was huge. And that's for me what makes the big difference when it comes to self-publishing. And maybe we can go into that maybe a little later. a little bit later. But so that model of where the writer puts up a lot of the upfront costs and then the publisher distributes the book is actually a business model. I mean, I sort of just happened into it by chance, but it's called partnership publishing or hybrid publishing, and it's quite it's a minefield for writers, because there's lots of ways of getting ripped off in that area. So you have to be very, very careful when it comes to the hybrid publishing model. Maybe maybe you want to talk about that later, or? Well,
we'll see how it goes. I mean, you have sent me, you have recently talking to the Edinburgh Writers Forum, and you sent me your notes for that. So there's a lot of information in there. So it would be good to get some of that information, and I'll maybe talk about the sort of self-publishing deal that I did as well, while we're doing that, if you want. So can you just, it sounds to me as though before you even went down this route, you had explored, you had looked at lots and all the different models that you can use for self-publishing.
Yeah.
So can you give us an overview of the type of models that you can get? And also, I think that cost is really important, because, as you said, you had to put up a lot of the costs up front. I had to put up a lot of the costs up front when I self-published my latest novel. So if you could talk about that as well.
Okay, that would be good to compare your experience as well.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is that my experience, I mean, I've done one, I mean, unless you've done lots of books, it's hard to get a sense of what everything, a comparison with cost. So it'd be good to hear your story as well.
Well, I think the majority of people, well, not the majority of people, but I think a lot of people, when they think about self-publishing, just think about Amazon and the Amazon model. But there are, as you've just described, there are lots of different ways that you can do it. So,
well, yeah. I mean, to get the Amazon model out of the way, first of all, I mean, the Amazon model is the easiest model.
Yes.
I mean, it really is, and I mean, they're very, very good at it, to be honest. I mean, they're very good at it, and I mean, I know people will have their, all kinds of issues with Amazon, and that's fair enough. But in far as Kindle Direct Publishing, which is their self-publishing model, they're very, very good, and it's relatively easy to navigate. And if you didn't want any upfront cost, you could surrender yourself to Amazon and get an ebook out there for nothing. And I mean, Apple does dominate the UK and US markets, and therefore by getting your book out onto Amazon, you're going to, I mean, and these are the big English speaking markets, obviously, you are going to get a lot of access to markets, whereas other companies such as Ingram Sparks and Kobo and Apple Books don't have as much market share, but are viable options.
Yeah.
But if you are prepared to let Amazon deal with all the editing, proofreading, if you do all the editing, proofreading, typesetting, cover design yourself, and then you can upload your book to Amazon for nothing, basically. And if you want a printed copy to be available as well, then you can do print on demand with them. And again, they can do everything for you. So I mean, that's your first option, basically. If you've got the skills to get your book prepared for uploading to Amazon, then it will cost you nothing. I mean, I can go into more detail about that, but maybe it's probably too much at this stage. The alternative to that is to get somebody else to do the things that you might feel less confident with. So I mean, if you're not able to typeset the book yourself, if you're not able to proofread the book yourself, if you're not able to get the cover design for yourself, if you're uncomfortable with, you know, getting ISBN numbers and all this kind of thing, and getting it printed, then you can outsource all of that. And then there are companies that will do that for you.
And that was the model that I went down. I outsourced all that side of it, not the ISBN numbers, but I outsourced the editing as well. I got an independent editor, and it was the same company. It was Lumfinnan's Press up in Aberdeen, and they did the cover design and they did all the typesetting, and they spoke me through the whole process of uploading it into Amazon and everything. They were absolutely brilliant. Yeah. And
are you able to say how much that costs? Are you
I can't remember. To be honest, I can't.
I mean, that's sort of ballpark figure. I mean, what?
I think it was, I can't remember. It might have been about £500 or something like that.
Well, that's very good.
Yeah, and also the other thing that I did was, although I do have Amazon print on demand, he managed to get a print. He's got a really good deal with a printer. So I have a box of I've gone through 2 print runs, actually, a whole print run of my own copies and my own nice paper and everything like that.
Right.
That I sell myself. And
I did that too. Because I was so far down the line with the self-publishing model that when Backpage Press came in, I thought, well, I still would like to actually have some limited edition copies for myself. So I got 150 copies printed for myself, which I sold as a limited edition, and I think they've all sold.
Yeah, you know. And because he does this for lots of authors, he's got a really good deal with the publisher, so you get a good copy price. So yeah, so that was the model I did.
And are you happy with the printing and everything? Are you? Absolutely. Okay, well that's brilliant. I mean, so that's a very good model.
Yeah.
Of just out. So to be clear, and I'm assuming I'm correct here. They didn't publish you.
No, right. I set up my own imprint called Trillican Press, and I bought the ISBN numbers from Nielsen's bookstore.
Nielsen, of course.
Under Trillican Press. And as Trillican Press, I then had to send the books to the British Library. And because I am set up as a publisher and my ISBN number is logged with Nielsen's, I can sell direct to the local Waterstones stores, so they can then put it on their systems as well. So that worked for that.
Right. Okay. So that's interesting. I got an ISBN number for the ebook, and then I didn't do an ISBN number for my limited edition. So that's a private thing. And then Backpage Press did the ISBN number for the printed edition. So they're responsible for all that distribution and so on. But I'm interested about the fact that so Waterstones will take from you, because my understanding was that if you're self-publishing, even with an ISBN number, they won't, because they will order from gardeners.
Waterstones have an account called the community account, and if you're local, so I only sell to I'm based in Stirling, but the book's set in Fife, so I sell to Stirling stores and Fife stores, and they are able to invoice. I am able to invoice them through their community account.
Okay, so that's really interesting for me, because I didn't know you could do that. Oh, I mean, it is limited, of course. It's limited geographically.
Yes, it is. But I can also sell to small independent stores, but I have to do it myself. So you have the distribution from Backpage Press, but I have to do it all myself. But it's fine. I mean, I'm quite happy with that arrangement.
But that's interesting for me, because I didn't know that you could do that, even if it's a localized thing. But for the purpose of people who are listening to this, when I say that, you know, Backpage Press has the distribution, what what that means is that the books are in a warehouse.
Yes.
And either Gardner's is the big warehouse in UK, and I can't remember the one in Scotland. Is it Booksource? Yeah. So so my books are in that warehouse, and they're on a pallet there. And so when Amazon orders it, or when Waterson's order, or when Gardner's, whoever orders the book, libraries or so on, they go to the distributor, and I have nothing to do with getting the book sent out there. And for me, that was a big thing, because I didn't want to have to deal with that. But if you are prepared to deal with it, which you've always been, I mean, you've always been a great marketer of your own work, Moira. I mean, you're a shining example to us all. Then if you're prepared to do the legwork for yourself, then that's good to know, that community model. I will add that to
your list. That's good. I'm glad to
add that to my list. But
the other thing, I'd just like to add some other thing. I don't want to take over your interview here, David, but
no, I'm interested as much as anybody else.
I should maybe explain that if you're buying the ISBN numbers, you need that for point of sale. So that's why Waterstone's like that. And you can buy them from Nielsen's book data, and they're about £150 for 10. And that means that you can, whenever you want to publish a book, you can use that.
Or 15 for one.
Oh, right. Is that what it is? Right.
Yeah, I think so.
The other thing that I wanted to mention when you were talking about Kindle and Amazon, when you sign up with them, you could put your ebook with Apple or Kobo or all of these other companies, and that's a choice that you can make. But if you go exclusively with Amazon, you will be allowed to sign up for their unlimited program, which means that you get paid per page, which is really good to have. If you do go with Kobo or Ingram Spark or any of these others, you don't get the option to do that. So that's another thing too.
Okay, so I just want to correct myself there with the ISBN number. A single ISBN number is £89. It's and 164 for a block of 10. So if you're interested in publishing more than one book, it's obviously more economical to go for the block of 10. And it's the barcode, is getting the barcode that's £15.
Okay.
But and again, also with the Kindle, the Kindle deal that you were talking about, that lasts for 90 days, I think. So you can always go for 90 days. Originally, your book first comes out and get the page per page fee, and then if you feel that you want to expand into other, like Kobo and so on and Apple, you can come off that program after 90 days.
Yeah, that's right. You can change it after that. Yeah. So that's outsourcing. What else have you?
Well, I was going to follow up with the outsourcing, was that where you have to be careful as an independent author or as a self-published author is to differentiate between what you did, Moira, which is basically outsourced the skills, right? But don't get confused with thinking that you're being published.
Mm-hmm.
And lots of companies, I'm not going to start naming names here, but lots of companies will make you think that what they're doing is publishing your book, when in fact they're just taking advantage of you being outsourcing the skills. Mm-hmm. And they say that they're going to market the book, and they're saying that this, that, and the other, but really they're not. They're basically just vanity publishers.
Yes.
So you have to be very careful between outsourcing the skills and then marketing it and publishing it yourself, and paying a lot of money to think that you're getting published by a company when you're not. No. And that's the real danger for self-publishing. I mean, I've done some costs whereby I kind of feel that if you, I did what you did. I published, I printed out 150 books for myself, and if you outsource everything apart from marketing, I think it will cost between £2,000 and £2,500. And if companies are charging you a lot more than that, then you really have to start thinking about maybe you're getting ripped off here.
Yeah.
And one other thing I wanted to say about cover design. Yeah. I got my cover for Responsibility of, which I don't have a copy here, unfortunately. I got a bespoke cover. Yes. Which means I worked with a designer called Andy Bridge, who designed the very famous Life of Pi cover, the blue with the little raft, and he does Hilary Mantel, and Peter Carey. I mean, he's a very, very well-established designer, cover designer, lives in France with his wife, and we worked together on my cover, and that cost me £500.
Right.
Which I think that's really, really very reasonable to work with a top-class designer.
Yes.
But if you just want to get what I would call an off-the-peg cover, which is, covers that are out there, already, and the publisher just downloads it, or you just download it, and then add all the things you have to add to your name and the title and all the back cover kind of stuff. That can be around about £250.
Yeah.
The cover, and I got all the people that I got to work on the Responsibility of Love. A lot of them I got through Readsy.
Oh yes, that's a very well known.
Yeah, that's a talent pool for proofreaders, typesetters, designers, marketers, and they take a 10% fee for putting you together with whoever, a typesetter, a designer, or whoever. So it's readsy.com, and I think that, it's a very easy site to manage, and it handles all the finances in a very secure way and everything. So I would recommend that to people who are looking to outsource, all these skills.
Yeah, I'll put that link in the box. They also have quite a lot of good guidance videos as well. Readsy.
Oh, very good. Yeah. A very, very good resource. Very good resource. Okay, and then there's this hybrid publishing model, which I sort of stumbled into, and it's becoming quite popular now. And again, you have to be very, very careful. And this is again where it is hybrid publishing or partnership publishing. And I mean, there are companies out there who will again say, who will publish your novel if you put up a lot of the upfront costs.
Yeah.
And again, you have to be very, very careful that you're not just stumbling into something whereby someone's pretending that they're going to publish and market you, and basically they're just taking your money. A proper hybrid publisher will take, will have the ISBN number because they're controlling the accounts and the publishing, and they will vet submissions. They will have an editorial aspect to it. They will manage the rights for you. They will provide distribution services, and they will pay you a royalty, maybe 50%, as compared to like 7 or 10%, which you would normally get. And if you can find a good hybrid publisher, then they can do all that distribution that we've been talking about through the warehouses and so on. So you would get into Waterstones and independent bookshops with eligible for prizes, libraries, reviews, and so on. Okay, so perhaps one of the ways to get your head around the sort of hybrid model is with the Unbound publishing model. Unbound has been around for a long time. Many of you may be aware of their name. They've had a fair amount of commercial success. In fact, had quite a lot amount of commercial success. They've won various prizes. Yeah. Booker longlisted. writers who've gone with them, such as Natalie Fergie with her Sewing Machine novel, published sold more than 100,000 copies. So what they do is, it's a bit like crowdfunding, but instead of crowdfunding for yourself, you're crowdfunding for the publisher. So what you do with Unbound is you pitch your novel, or doesn't have to be a novel, a non-fiction book or a celebrity book or whatever, cookery book, to Unbound. And if they think that they will be able to sell it, they will tell you that they'll say to you how much they would like you to raise in advance. And once you've raised that, then they will take over, and then they become just like a normal publisher. They will do everything for you and do all the marketing and all the distribution and all the editing and proofreading and cover design and so on. And now I've spoken to a number of authors who've gone with Unbound, and the initial fee or the initial crowdfunding sum that they want can vary tremendously. But I've heard that now it's round about between £5,500 and £7,500 they want you to raise, but it could be as much as 12.
Quite a lot.
There used to be a time limit. Now, there used to be a time limit, like you had 3 months or 6 months to do it, but now that I believe there's no time limit. So what you do is you try and crowdfund this sum. So obviously you've got your friends and so on, and then you have all these offers that you make to entice people in: signed copies, invitation to an event, a Zoom call with an author. You're going to give them. You send them a mug with the name of the book on it. You get your name and a list of donors at the back of the book. A character could be named after you. You can put, I believe now you can actually put in quite a lot of your own money, which kind of feels like it defeats the initial purpose.
Yeah.
Now, so that what I've found from speaking to authors is, I mean, one friend sold 12,000 copies, which is very respectable.
Wow. Yeah.
But all of them have said it was exhausting.
Yeah.
It
I
was
can imagine.
exhausting. It was absolutely exhausting. They didn't regret that they'd done it. It was absolutely exhausting. They were very grateful for the foot in the door, but they probably wouldn't do it again. And of course, it's very difficult to do again, because you've apart from being exhausted yourself, you've also exhausted your contact, your friends, and so on. So, but it does give you an idea of a sort of partnership model.
Yes.
And it's been very successful. It's been very successful. So anyway, I'll finish there, and I don't know if there's anything you want to follow up on, or.
No, I think you've covered most of this. Well, the self-publishing models that I'm aware of as well. And yeah, I think probably my question is, from your experience, almost everyone watching this video will be a writer. So what advice can you give them about your experience of self-publishing? Well,
my advice, first of all, is to think very carefully of what you want from being published. Basically managing your expectations. What is it you want? Do you want just to get your book out there? Do you want to be in bookshops? Do you want to be submitted for prizes? Do you want fortune and fame? Do you want, how many copies do you think you might want to sell? I mean, I think you have to think very clearly what you really want.
Yeah.
And that in many ways will define what kind of route you want to take. If you end up taking the self-publishing route, I think you just have to be very, very careful that you're not falling into a trap of vanity publishing, where a company is just going to, leverage your desire to be published by making or exploiting your desire to be published by charging all kinds of, extortionate fees and promising you to be marketed and published and so on. And so you have to be very careful with that. I mean, you've obviously had a very good experience with what was the name of the company?
Lunfunnins Press.
Right. Well, you've obviously, I mean, that they sound a very reputable company. And those are the kind of companies that are worth going with, on the understanding that you realize they're not publishing you, but they're
giving you a service.
They're giving you a service, and I think that's good if you're prepared to do all the marketing and distribution yourself. A hybrid model, again, you have to be hugely careful that you're not stepping into a minefield of exploitation. Is something that can work and will give you distribution and marketing in exchange for upfront costs. But again, you have to be very careful. There is actually a list of guidelines, which I think is on that handout that I sent you, Moira. The nine guidelines laid down by the Book Publishers Association to check whether you feel that a hybrid publisher is a valid one.
Right. Okay. I'll put all these links on.
Yeah. So I think manage your expectations. Most writers sell between 500 and 1,000 books if they're lucky. And I know that doesn't seem as much as people might think, and you might be surprised at who these writers might be. I certainly know that J.K. Rowling, when she was writing under Robert Galbraith, and despite all her blurbs from people like Val McDermott and so on, what was it, The Cuckoo's Calling or something?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, sold 400 copies before they found out that it was that J.K. Rowling, and then suddenly she sold tens of thousands.
Yeah, I know.
So I think managing expectations is important. Being very, very careful about who you link up with, and I wish people the best luck.
Excellent. So very briefly then, can I just ask you, what's next for David Simons?
Well, I keep thinking I'm not going to write another novel, but I'm kind of waiting for something to strike me, but at the moment I've been playing around with a few things, but nothing's happened, no light bulb moment where I felt, I'd like to write a novel about that. So I'm writing short stories. I'm having a bit of success with short stories, which I'm enjoying much. And I guess I think lots of writers, as they get older, tend to drift towards short stories as a way of honing their craft, and also it's just so hard. I mean, to get published and find space in mainstream publishing and bookshelves, and the short stories, at least you get a quick response.
That's true. Oh, well, thank you so much for talking to us today, David. It's been an absolute treat, and I've certainly learned a lot. And I thought I knew quite a lot about self-publishing before we spoke. As I said earlier, I'll put any of the links that David mentioned in the comments box at the bottom of the video. And I'd just like to say thank you, David, and thank you, Federation of Writer members, for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.